Hey folks, and welcome to another video from A Plain Truth. This is an important video, and a big shout out to Mike Morales and Did You Do It for their continued work in exposing what has happened in Paradise as we look back and recur the events. Now, what I'm going to get into today was there radio frequencies? Did they use ultra low frequencies, underground frequencies to create the underground lightning as we're discovering? Was it the ignition event caused by the subduction zones right at the Mendocino conjunction point, right off the coast of Eureka? And here we see the work by Did You Do It, showing us how these fires had a pattern and had a radio frequency line going straight out to that point right below Eureka where the subduction zones are here. Take a look.
Okay, right here. Do you see that line, folks? Okay, that represents 1522 UTC on November 8th. This is 1507. I don't see it at 1507. Okay. That's 1452, 1507, 1522, there it is. 1537, there it is. And 1552, I'm not seeing it. But now I'm going to cycle through it again. Let's see if you can see that now. I showed you. And actually, it also happens the following day on the 9th at like 7:45 in the morning. Something like that. I'm going to zoom in on it, hopefully, and it won't screw it up for us. It's pretty interesting. It's just your regular clouds and activity going on there. But, it's about ready to start. Alright, see that? Okay, well, it went pretty quick there. There it is again. There it is again. Okay, that's November 8th. 9:10 a.m. UTC at 12:13:14. Take the plume back to the beginning. And there's our strike. You see it? They were lighting it on fire. Now they've killed people. See it? And those are all GLM flashes there, or energy flashes. This really sucks, folks. I'm sorry. And then 1530, 1545, the tallest pyrocumulus clouds are forming at 1545. And let's see, that's 1537. It's 1552. So you can see that, to me, it looks like that's related to them starting that fire. Now I'm going to tell you something. This here yellow patch, watch this, it'll turn red, and then this line, this streak will shoot out at the same time that turns red, if it'll let us do it. Okay, watch that yellow area, and at the bottom of the yellow, when it turns red, you'll see that purple line come out. You see it? And then the fire starts.
So here's from the excellent work in Paradise of the ignition event that occurred on the November 8th, allegedly at 6:30 in the morning of 2018, and it was an ignition event. You can see the three little lights there, the energy lights that was also showed in the previous video as well. But here you can see where the ignition event occurred, and you can see the tower of it, and this is one of the points I was making. To the right there you see Lake Tahoe, which is 11 miles wide by 22 miles long. And just looking at the shadow of the ignition event, you can see this was a major, major explosion that went straight up. And as you can see here in a minute, it also shows the radio frequency directed energy lines that Did You Do It pointed out in the previous video as well. So we have more and more evidence that this was actually an event, a manufactured event, premeditated murder. And we have major flaws in the official story of what they said was a forest fire and now an ignition. Look at how tall that thing is, man. That shadow alone compared to Tahoe is at least 20 miles high. These are the events that are caused the Paradise fires. And then, as we can see in these pictures, so here you see out at the point out there right below Eureka is where the Doppler radar system is. And then you can see this is from the radio frequency Doppler station, focused and located right at that exact same point, where we're going to get into all these convergences of these subduction zones that occur right there. So the point being is this was the originator of the radio frequency lines that went due east, south, just a little bit south, but pretty much due east along the subduction lines coming off the coast. And we can also see from the visuals here that the radio frequencies were being turned on the day of the event, November 8th, 2018. But as you can see from this coming up video as well, that was sent to me, these radio frequencies were being turned on November 9th as well. This picture is a picture from the Chico airport where FEMA has taken over about 50 acres and stationed themselves. And you can see the scattering of radar all over and around Paradise as well. So let's get into these subduction zones and how they're possibly using Earth's energy to create these radio frequency waves. So the Mendocino Triple Junction Observatory. The Mendocino Triple Junction connects Cascadia to the San Andreas, basically all the way from the Canadian border down to Mexico. This was done October 20th, 2016. The Mendocino Triple Junction region straddles the transition between two of the most important segments of North American plate boundary, separating the Cascadia subduction zone from the translational tectonics of the San Andreas plate boundary. The region is seismically active, undergoes rapid and spatially varying deformation, and involves many key plate boundary elements. Although the Mendocino Triple Junction itself was not a primary Earth scope focus, its location linking two of the major targets of both the PBO and US Array components means that a wealth of relevant new data have been acquired under Earth scope. And then here we can see, scrolling down, right at this exact spot, right where the NEXRAD radar system is, right in direct, here's Chico right over here, folks, direct line. See this line right here? Direct line. And EarthScope is one of the major data collection agencies for all the USGS and many others. It's founded by the National Science Foundation. Their vision is to use North America as a natural laboratory to gain fundamental insight how the Earth operates. Our goal was to enable and encourage scientists to study the Earth in creative, innovative ideas. To meet EarthScope's scientific goals, a variety of geophysical instrumentation has been installed across the country, including a 3.2 kilometer borehole into the San Andreas Fault. So they've been studying this, and you can see all the partnerships along with EarthScope, UNAFCO, which is United Nations, Incorporated Research for Seismology, USGS, and NASA, not a space agency, okay? You getting the idea here? But you can see, folks, it's right along that exact point where everything occurred in Paradise. And again, we see that there's 150 years, 40 earthquakes, magnitude of 6. But as you can see here, a lot of the points are occurring right at this point, right below Eureka, right here, where the NEXRAD radar, the Mendocino Triple Junction zone is all coming to a head right there. Now, look at this map here, folks. This is more evidence that this is all a very, very important point. And you can see here along the coastline, and then right at this point where everything's lining up, and then look the way it goes due west, straight to the Mendocino Conjunction, right about where Paradise is. Could this have been where the fire ignition began? And as this is what caused that plume that went up tens of miles and also burned trees from underground up to about 20, 25 feet above ground. Was this where it all began? And then also notice this line again here, going past the Gorda Plate, going all the way east or west to Asia. Two significant rifts extend across the Pacific, starting at the Hawaiian Island chain and meeting the continent near Eureka at Point Conception. They're talking about these lines right here, folks. See these big lines? These big ridge lines? This is what they're talking about. All right, so here's a map with the subduction zone there of the Mendocino Triple Junction. and how it all comes across from the west to the east, right at the exact same point where the bottom of the San Andreas Fault meets as well. And then we have the radio frequency NEXRAD Doppler radar systems right there on that point as well. And we see that this is also the subduction zone right here at the Mendocino triple subduction zone. We see that it's also super heavy earthquake prone. In fact, we're seeing earthquakes occur more and more frequently right at this exact same point. So I'm wondering and thinking out loud, was the underground ultra-low frequencies being used and conducted from this point underground to ignite the fire ignitions that went up tens of miles in the air and caused 8 to 10 days of chem fog over Northern California? Now, we know it's chem fog because they said it's not even a forest fire anymore. It's a fire ignition, using their terms. So here we see earthquake after earthquake, but we also know that the trees were burned from the bottom up to about 20-25 feet. The Earth, like ourselves, have an aura, and that aura goes up, according to Tesla, about 20-25 feet. So could they have used the subduction zones for the power source to do the underground lightning that scarred the trees from below, using the copper rods or the smart meters to ignite the homes and explode them from inside? Is that what we're seeing? Is that what is happening as well? Again, most of these events are multi-pronged events. It's just not one thing happening, it's many things. So we're seeing the radio frequencies now connecting out to the point of the California coast where the subduction zone is, or the Mendocino triple subjunction, in a major inflection point on the western coast here, where the original 200 miles out, the California coast used to be before the great floods we're learning of the 1850, 1860s. So this whole event horizon is now getting more acute in that we're understanding much better that this was an engineered event. This was a genocide. Tens of thousands of people have possibly been murdered. And they're going to continue on with this technology because, as the former Jesuit governor Jerry Brown said, Jesuit minister Jerry Brown said, this is going to be lasting another 10, 15 to 20 years going on. And now we're seeing the floods as well. So the next thing we should be expecting is earthquakes, because these guys leave nothing to chance, and they execute according to their what's called their grand design, following their book of continuity. And this is how they can execute their plans over generations. They plan this, but they're clearly in the execution phase of World War III, which began with World Trade Center bombings, the demolition, the directed energy weapons used on the World Trade Centers on November 1st, 2001. And this is the continuation of the Albert Pike prophecies of World War III. California is clearly under attack, and we are being hit by many of these different modulations of devices from the air, from the ground, from lasers, from everywhere. So share this with everybody, folks. And then one other thing I want to get into just on the floods here, about how far they went out, because this is another huge story that we're just learning about, is how did the gold rush begin? Did the gold rush begin because there was the receding of the California island in the 1840s? And in the receding, it exposed all the gold in the Sierra foothills, where literally the gold was above ground. And that's what caused everyone to come to the California in the 1849s. You know, the 49ers came out here, and they sailed from all around the world. The Chinese, the Europeans, everyone sailed to the West Coast. And was that because the gold in the Gold Hills was literally where you could bend over and pick it up, because the soil erosion from the great floods of the 1940s or 30s that caused the California island recession? And here you see, look at the subduction zone here. You see this, how it goes straight across, folks? See how that looks? That's exactly in line with where it went to the Paradise Fires. Here, look at this. This subduction zone lines up perfectly with the line going straight towards Paradise. Coincidence? I don't think so. So again, the California mud flood. Let's just give you a little brief history of what I reported here the other day about the California islands and how they were formed. The Great Salt Lakes east of the northeast corner are evidence that there was a lot of salt water left there after the ocean receded. Now we know how the inland Great Salt Lake got its salt. Another mystery solved in her story. South of the Pacific side, from the Flat Island top, we find a section from the top of the map of Point Conception that extends 200 miles farther into the Pacific than it does today. One nice thing I want to bring to your attention, 80 football fields a minute by Cal Fire Chief Ken Pimlott, 272 miles an hour this fire traveled east to west. We never have storms coming from the Sierra Nevadas, 12,000 feet going east to west. That's that they said what happened. With 6 to 8 days, we had chem fog over the entire Northern California, 3,000 feet thick from these wildfires. But here clearly, from Digit's videos here, you can see, look at the clouds coming, folks. Are they going east to west? This is at the event horizon. This is when it began. What are the winds doing? What are the winds doing? The winds are going from, that's a little bit going east, but then it goes south. The winds go north and south at the time of the event horizon. How is that possible that the smoke and plume went west from east to west? Here you can see it again. It's clearly traveling from north to southeast, not going east to west. And then you see the charts here. There's very few winds that ever come up going east to west. 272 miles an hour. Are you blowing smoke up my ass? Now we got red flag warnings where they can sit there and they can turn off our power anytime they want with winds over 20 miles an hour. And here you can see this is from the October fires from 2017. And we can see that these fires were clearly going to the west. But then we see on the day of the event here, the picture of the day of the event right here, we see that there's some smoke going up there above the Central Valley there, up by Redding, clearly going the opposite direction, west to east. Now, how can that be? How can fires counter-trend the prevailing winds? You tell me. They've been blowing smoke up our butts. We have murder on our hands. We have genocide going on. Hundreds and thousands of people are without homes now, and it's only going to continue. Speak out, share this video, be heard. Don't let your silence keep us from changing what must change and awakening those that must awaken, no matter how comfortable. Tag your it, and if not you, then who? All right, plain truth out, peace, love one another. And get ready, folks. It's only going to get more and more intense. Peace.